Hello and welcome everybody. Do you like mobile phones? Do you own a mobile phone? Do you play OSRS on mobile? Well, if you answered yes to any of those questions, you are in for a treat today. We are joined by the very people who are working so hard on some of our new client features, and we're also looking to bring them through to mobile. I'm your host, Mod Light, and joining me today are the wonderful mods Lenny, Nin, and Tide. Welcome, everyone. How are you all doing today? Tide, let's go to you first. How are you
Oh,
doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Working on some new features, having a good day, having a laugh. How you doing?
I'm good. I love the new hair, Tide, rocking it for the summer. Hell yes. Nin, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I was struggling to find a place to sit down and do this stream in the office because it's a bit scuffed to do it in the streaming room with like two people. I found this chair and it's really bouncy. It like goes way back. So I'm having a great time.
You're bringing the energy today. Hell yes, Nin. Lenny, how are you doing? I see you stole the studio.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I've beaten into the chase here to get down into the live streaming studio. It's been doing good, but just a very tiring couple of weeks, all for good reasons, but, you know, kind of taking its toll.
Absolutely. Well,
And
we're
there is
so
Modsphere
pleased
too.
to have you here. Nice, Modsphere cameo. Awesome. Right, so today's live stream, we're going to be talking about some of the mobile UI changes that we made a blog about just the other week. First, we'll go through some quick announcements. So, exclamation mark game update will tell you all about today's game update. So, it was all about Group Iron Man. We've added unranked Group Iron Man. You can team up casually with your pals. And we also have our very first group boss bash. So, you can have a chance of winning a lot of membership there if you want to take on those bosses. And we also have exclamation mark RS Kingdoms. You can find out a lot more about our new board game. Our friends at Steamforged have brought Eleanor to tabletop. Get all the latest information with that command. Right, so first of all, for those of you who haven't read the blog, because we know some of you out there don't read our blogs, we're going to just talk quickly about some of the changes. We'll go through some images to start off with, so if we can show those now. First image is the existing UI. So this is what you guys are all used to, what you know and love. And then going into some of the images from the blog, you can see an updated version of the UI with some of the changes that we'd like to make. So just flicking through those, you can see a bunch of different things which we will get into today and discuss. There's like a condensed mini-map, a pop-out menu, loads of different things. And Mod Nin, I believe, is going to discuss and summarize some of the changes. So take it away, Mod Nin.
Yeah, so just for like a bit of context here, the three of us have been working on what you guys know as a Steam client, which is basically we're taking a bunch of new features into the RuneScape client. And recently we have done an open beta for Android and a closed beta for iOS, I believe, to take that same client that we've made for PC and put it onto mobile as well. And we need to make some space to fit some of the new features in. So like the current UI that you have on mobile, it's a bit cramped. There's no room for us to kind of add some new things to it. So we thought, okay, now is the time. We can make some adjustments. We can make some improvements while we're at it. Nothing absolutely massive, but still some pretty good changes, and that will give us some like room to add some new features. So if we go to like the first image that you've got there, and yeah, I'll go from like I'll go around in a circle. So top left, we've rearranged the chat a little bit. You usually have the stones across the top of the chat. We thought they look kind of ugly. You end up having the report button, which is like a bright red button right in the top middle of your screen, which is kind of weird. So we thought, okay, let's move that all over to the side, kind of keep it nice and uniform. On this, it's a scrollable list, but we've been discussing some changes to that as well. Then in the top right, you've got the minimap. You can currently minimize the minimap in the current mobile UI, but it's in this weird kind of layout where you have like your hit points and your special attack are like across the top, and then your prayer and your run are down the side. It's kind of weird. So we thought, okay, let's let's just kind of rearrange that. That'll be easy enough to do. Now you have the globes in kind of the right order that they are when you usually have the minimap open, and it all kind of looks like a bit neater. Below that, you'll see the side panel has been all moved to the right-hand side, so you no longer have like a split where half of the panels are on the left and half of the panels are on the right. You now have, they're all on the right, and the button right at the bottom is a new one that kind of expands out to show some more, like the hidden stones. The idea behind this is the first column that you see, that's like immediate gameplay things, so backpack, worn items, prayer, spells, all that stuff that you'll need in like moment-to-moment gameplay. And everything behind it are things that you don't necessarily need to see in moment-to-moment gameplay. You can pop that out or hide it if you don't need to see it. Yeah, so then going over to the other side of the screen, the probably the most like strange-looking thing is this controls like kind of quick settings panel. So this is where tap to drop is. You know, you used to have on, if we go back to the old layout, you have this tiny button right above the left-hand like stones. This teeny tiny button. It's like smaller than your like little fingernail, which you can assign to tap to drop or open the keyboard or single tap mode. We've said, okay, that's too small and kind of rubbish to use, so let's make it like a proper thing. So this has a few things on it. It's got a button that lets you turn on and off walking. It's got a button that lets you turn on and off interacting with things. It's got a button that lets you turn on and off the ability to highlight tiles on the ground. And the last one is tap to drop. And then we also have some space now for the pop-out panel, which is the video, I think. And this is it's a panel that currently has the XP tracker in it that Modzuko made for us. And in the future, we're going to be adding some more things to that as well. And there's a lot of room there for us to kind of add new features and new kind of helpful things in there. So yeah, that's like an overview of the whole thing.
That is such a useful summary, especially for someone like me who does prefer to see and hear it, and just hear you talking about it in action. So really appreciate that summary. Lenny and Ty, just what do you think about the changes? What's your kind of thoughts on it? How do you think it will improve the player experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've long had a few issues with the mobile UI, and sort of as soon as we started coming to look at the features that we wanted to add to it, it became quickly apparent this is the time that we need to start changing it. And quite a few months back now, Modern came to me with some sort of like very rough mock-ups of some of these changes and started talking about them with me. We started roughly prototyping a few things, and I very quickly got behind and was like, okay, cool, yeah, we've got some really solid changes here. Obviously, there's a few issues that we might need to iron out with it, but I think it's a really promising kind of change and a step in the right direction, and definitely the right time for us to be looking at doing it.
Awesome. Tide, what do you think?
For me, the new layout looks really nice, really clean, and also coming from development side, there's a lot more space to add new features to, which is always good.
Absolutely, yeah. And that was one of the kind of findings that we found across both the betas that we had on iOS and Android. Players want to see far more features added in for mobile, so it's really nice to see the amount of space you guys are creating for it. So going a bit deeper into these changes, let's take a look at the new pop-out panel. Can you explain exactly what the pop-out panel is to players? Nin, we'll go with you first.
Yeah, so this, if you've seen the Steam client, you'll know that it's got a sidebar. But it's basically the sidebar you have on Runelight. It's like a space to put some features, XP tracker, loot tracker, things like that. And we needed a place to put it in the mobile client. At the moment, in the mobile betas, it is there. It exists as a bar down the side of the screen. It takes up a lot of space. But yeah, it's just that feature, but put into a new place.
Awesome. All right, seems pretty self-explanatory, so we'll move on to the next question. What functionality exactly can players expect from the pop-out panel? Lenny, could you talk us through what exactly the features are? Because some of our players may not have played through the betas so far, or even on Steam.
Yeah, so the one thing that we have there at the moment is, as Nick mentions, the XP tracker, which especially when we've got this big bar on the right side, it looks kind of a little bit lonely and isolated over there. Going forwards, there's a handful of other things that we've got planned where you want to do loot tracking, which will be sort of a perfect candidate for something to go there. We want to offer high score lookups. And then there's all kinds of other things that are sort of a little less certain at the moment, but whether it might be farming timers, any other kinds of just like long-term tracking, notes, things like that. Just any of these sorts of things that want to sit alongside your gameplay rather than taking its focus will be something that will be honed in that panel. And yeah, it's kind of a little less certain the further down in the future we go, but the first three that we really want to get in there are the XP tracker, loot tracker, and the high scores panel.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
that's
one of
chill.
the
That's so cool.
one of the things that we made sure to do with this, so on mobile you have like not a lot of space on the screen. We can't like extend the window out to the side like on Windows or anything like that. So one of the ideas we had, you can see in this frame, it's like a kind of minimized panel, so like it extends out all the way so you can get like a kind of full view of everything. But we also had like a little minimized one in case you just want to see like you're just doing some mining or something like that, and you can just like have that down at the bottom while you play, and it's not too intrusive. So I think that would be quite handy to have.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. Chat was pretty excited about that one too. Okay, can we explain a bit more about helper features? What exactly are they? What do they do? Lenny, could you kind of explain and expand on that?
Yeah, so helpers are generally what a lot of people are going to be used to in third-party clients, and the sort of general sort of feature sets that they really want us to bring to our own client. So just anything that kind of, as the name would suggest, helps through your sort of standard day-to-day gameplay, whether that's things like the Chambers of Xeric helper that we've already got in place, things like the wood cutting and mining timers, the Slayer sort of overlay, anything like this that just kind of sits alongside your gameplay, helps to present information more clearly to you in ways that we just currently don't have the platform to in the client as it stands.
Great. I imagine that's going to be super useful on mobile because it's something that we don't currently have a way to show on mobile. People can kind of use RuneLight if they're using desktop, but for mobile, this is going to be a massive upgrade.
Yeah, I think
Will players...
people who are
Sorry.
people who are in the current beta will see that some of those helpers are already available on the sort of beta mobile clients, but with the sort of current UI layout, they do feel a little bit just tacked in, and they're kind of shuffling around constantly as you're opening and closing different bits of the interface, which is one of the things that we want to try and address here.
Awesome. Yeah, making space for it makes absolute sense as well, especially if we're looking to add more of them. Will players need to keep pressing expand to see both columns? This is a question that came up from the survey. Nin, could you answer that for us?
Yeah, quick answer, no, it's a toggle. There's the new stone, the new icon that you see like within all the stones on the right hand side. That is like, you tap it, they come out, you tap it again, they go back in, and yeah.
Awesome. Can you explain some of the changes that we're looking to make to chat? Will the chat work easier? Can you just explain like what we're looking to do in that area? Nin, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I kind of briefly touched on this earlier, but it was less about making the chat like more functional and more making it just like look and feel a lot nicer. So we've taken the stones from the top, we've moved them to the left-hand side. We've made them like the same, like a uniform width, like the report button's actually bigger than all the other buttons. And then we made like everything on the right-hand side or the left-hand side is like the same width now. So it was more about just kind of making the UI kind of feel nicer. It's a better first impression for like a new player. Just kind of improves the like perceived quality of the mobile client. There's definitely some, like from the survey, we got some feedback about the chat in particular, so it's something that we're going to revisit, but that's kind of the goals that we have in mind with what we're doing with the chat.
Awesome. Yeah, I did notice some survey feedback about players wanting more functionality, and that's definitely something that we'll look to review. But for now, it's like more of a cleaner look, which I would definitely agree the chat looks a bit cleaner to me in the new UI. Right, next question. Can unused buttons or tools such as like the XP tracker or any buttons that players might want to hide because they just don't use them, can they be hidden? Lenny, we'll start with you.
Sure, yeah. So things like the XP tracker is a good example. we're going to kind of make them available as and when you want them to be available. So, you know, if you go into your settings menu and just say, no, I don't want the XP tracker to be available for me, that button will go away. We're not going to kind of leave it sat there to offer nothing. With the way it currently works, it's sort of set up so that there'd be a number of different things available there, whether it is the XP tracker, the loot tracker, the high scores panel, and it's kind of going to vary based on a combination of all of those settings. So if you said, I don't want any of them, then it will just hide it in its entirety. If you said, I do want some of them, then it will show those relevant ones to you. Obviously, it's still going to take up that little bit of space for that button. But yeah, we kind of tune it to what you actually do want to see and try to tidy things up and make as much space where you don't want it.
Great, sounds awesome. Ty, do you kind of have anything to add on that, like in terms of unused buttons or tools? Is there anything that you kind of feel you want to comment on?
Nothing in particular at the moment, but I think with the stone buttons, looking at the right stone panels, it would be interesting if we could, say for instance, they wanted to have 2 panels up at one time, maybe, for instance. We could have one of those on the left. That'd be pretty cool.
I know for me personally, I wouldn't want to see my XP because I'm so inefficient. So I'd want to hide that, but it's good that we get the option. All right, so this was a big question that came up in the survey. Are these changes, the new proposed UI changes, are they going to be optional? Can players toggle between the existing UI and the new UI? And I think this warrants like a little bit of a wider discussion just to explain a bit more about it. So Lenny, if you could kick us off with that question.
Yeah, so the short answer may not be the most popular one, but in short is no, we're not going to be able to just toggle back and forth between the two completely different types of UI. And the big overwhelming reason for that is that to offer all of these new features, we need some space to put them on screen, and we just don't have that space in the old UI, quite simply. We don't have, a good location to put the XP tracker without it just pushing everything in from the right-hand side of the screen, which throughout the beta has proved not to be the most popular place for it. Is found to be clunky. And then all these sort of extra controls options that we want, that you really don't want to be going into the settings menu to sort of switch between walk only, run only, interact only. They need to be more available at the top level, and we just don't have the space to sort of offer that in the existing layout. But obviously certain people have been raising issues that they do have with the new UI layout, so we don't just want to kind of say, tough, deal with it, you're taking it. We do want to sort of be a little more flexible on that and work to bring it to the place that it needs to be, where people are happy with it, figure out what exactly it is that people really do prefer about the old UI, and try to sort of find the right balance in there to make the space that we need, make the changes that we need to make, but not be taking anything away from people while we're at it.
That's a great answer. And yeah, we do want to nail down those particular instances where people prefer the old UI and make sure that we solve it with the new UI. Nin, sorry, I cut over you.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh! Ty, do you have anything to add?
Yes, the thing with it, if we had as a toggle on, you would have the old UI and the new UI. It would take a lot longer. Well, it would take us longer to create features for them, because we'd have to figure out where they're going on each UI. Any dodging that would need to be done, having multiple things open at once, it would be a lot more work for any feature we add.
Yeah, that's always like a challenge. When I think Giants Foundry is a good example. It's got like a really nice HUD for like when you're doing the minigame, and we've got to make sure that works on fixed mode desktop, resizable desktop, resizable modern desktop, although that's usually like the same kind of thing. And the mobile UI. And if you add like a second mobile UI on top of that, then it's just like a lot. So it really helps us as well if we can just have one. But the main reason is because we need to make the space. We wouldn't be like trying to make any changes if we didn't have a good reason for it.
Absolutely. And I think something that came up when we were discussing the feedback from the survey was that we would like to have one, but done right. Like, we'll do it the right way, and hopefully not have like several different iterations of UI. We want to make sure we please as many people as possible. So that's kind of the answer, is like it's not going to be toggleable between the existing UI and the proposed UI, but we will take the time to make sure that the proposed UI takes care of as many issues as possible. So next question that I've seen, which is quite popular, is why are we looking to make the changes? We touched on it, but Lenny, if you could just reiterate, why do we need to make these changes and why now specifically?
Yeah, so it all loops back around to the sort of betas that we've been running and the new features that we've been adding already with it and will be continuing to add, where it's one thing with just this XP tracker that we kind of want to add in, where people might decide, you know what, it's kind of a little bit obstructive and intrusive, so we can just toggle it off. But as we start adding more of these features, we really do want them to be able to fit seamlessly into the UI and feel like something that you want to be there, because, you know, it's not just kind of impacting the interface, but is, you know, the nice piece of sort of added content that it is. It can offer you more information that you want to see while you're playing the game. And in the existing sort of UI iteration, like we've been saying, yeah, we just quite simply don't have the space for it. We don't have the way to offer the information in a sort of nice and user-friendly way. And we just kind of need to take a bigger picture look at it and sort of start shuffling things around rather than just kind of pushing it in and tacking it on top of other things. Because that's kind of how we've dealt with all of the UI iterations on mobile to date, and the further we keep going with it, I think the worse it will just keep becoming, where it's going to become a more cramped and unpleasant experience, really. So right now, with the mobile clients for both iOS and Android in beta, and more of these features being actually worked on and sort of coming out to players as and when they're ready, it feels like the time that we really should just be looking at a good overhaul for it. And, you know, at the same time as a lot of new players are going to be able to get their hands on these new features, feels like a good time to kind of just revamp it as a whole and say, hey, it's not just the exact same old client as you had before with a few extra features. This is the kind of flashy new mobile build that we're looking at here.
That's a great answer. Do we plan to poll these changes? If so, would the poll be restricted to players who only play on mobile? Lenny, would you be comfortable answering that?
Yeah, so the short answer again is going to be that no, we don't plan on polling these changes. But obviously, we've already sort of started trying to talk with the community about this, and we want to continue doing that. One of the important things here is that we don't just want to push ahead with something that we think is right and players aren't happy with. We want to make sure that we get it right and get something that the players will really like to have in the mobile client. It's not going to be specifically catered to who does or doesn't spend certain amounts of time on mobile, because it's not just aimed at the people that are already there. We also want to make it a more appealing sort of platform for people who aren't currently playing on mobile. But
yeah, and it's like if you like poll all the people who play mobile, most of them are probably just like fishing, but there is like a small group of them who are like doing bossing, PVM, some PKing, and we have already seen like a fair few responses of people saying, no, this is actually going to make things worse. So yeah, we're definitely going to be going back, revisiting certain aspects of this and trying to make sure that we can get it to work for that. Like, we don't want to make anything worse than it currently is.
Yeah. So we're not going to be polling it in the sense that we do need to go ahead with these changes in some format to enable these new features, but we will spend the time to make sure that we're getting it right and talking to people about it.
Yeah, I've seen like 2 or 3 people mention, hey, I do PKing, hey, I do bossing. This is going to make my experience a bit more difficult. We've seen that in the feedback survey, so thank you so much for leaving your feedback. And we are going to be going away, revisiting what we can do to fix that. We're not ignoring your concerns. That's definitely a valid concern. So just give us some time to kind of like think about what we might change or tweak. We're not intending to just push this as an update without kind of taking into account those concerns. But we do want to get a feeling of how you guys feel about the UI generally. And we have a good idea now, thanks to everyone who filled out the survey. Right, so lots of you guys have asked, will we be bringing in mobile portrait mode? I've seen it in all of the betas. You guys really, really don't want to show people that you're playing on your phone like this in public. You want to look like you're playing on you want to look like you're texting someone. And I get it, because you're in real life. So will we be bringing in a portrait mode? Nin, I'm sorry, I have to ask you this question.
Oh, that means I have to be the bearer of bad news. We're not currently planning mobile portrait mode. It's obviously been discussed like a lot. I'll throw Mod Kieran under the bus here, saying he's always coming to us being like, hey, can we do portrait mode? And I mean, I guess he could probably make that cool. I don't know. But yeah, there's so much going on. It's a lot of work to just like make an entire new TLI. Again, it like adds a bunch of overhead. So it's not something that we're considering right now, but we're definitely not ruling it out. It's definitely something that we know a lot of people want, we want. Yeah, it's not a current consideration.
Yeah, I think, didn't we mention it's not a small undertaking either, because all of the layouts of like banks and everything is in landscape, so we would have to figure out a way of technically making it so that every single landscape type of tool that you use in the game can be used in portrait. And we've like had these like crazy discussions on like little ways that we can integrate portrait mode, like with the keyboard changing around and things like that. And it's just a lot of work, and it's something that needs actual care and attention. Someone needs to be assigned on that project. They need to have a decent amount of time to design it and make it really user friendly. And it's just not something that we can do until we've probably pushed out all of the other features that you guys want. So like, we know you want ground item markers, we know you want all of these different things, and it's just about prioritizing them and making sure we deliver as soon as possible to as many people as possible. So we hear you, we understand. We want it too, because we don't want to show people that we're playing old school in public, okay? Like, you know, but it's just something that we can't deliver right now. But we hear your concerns. Okay, next question. Do you plan on integrating plugins like the one in RuneLite to the mobile app? Lenny, can we go with you for this question?
Sure. So this kind of depends on what exactly people are referring to when they ask for plugins. Again, going back to the betas, if people have been trying out the betas, they'll see a lot of things that they would probably be referencing as plugins already available, things like the Slayer Helper, like the XP Tracker. And there's plenty more that we've got planned going forwards. We've mentioned a few times that one of the big ones we're looking at sort of as we speak is clue scrolls, and plenty more planned sort of as we keep going. If they want things like, you know, their door kicker plugin where they can go and kick down every door instead of pushing it open, that might be a little further away. That might not be one of the things we're prioritizing to get, but you know, it's not something that would rule out by any means. We want to offer a lot of these sorts of things that have proven popular with the players. And yeah, like this sort of new C++ client, whether that's mobile or on Steam, is our platform for offering these kinds of new features.
Awesome. Okay, so UI is important, but players have felt like menu entry swapper, ground item markers, blue scroll helpers should also be a high priority, as it would provide tremendous quality of life for mobile. What plans do we have for those like highly requested features? Lenny, can we go with you for this one?
Yeah, so those are all things that we do have planned going forward in the future, or sort of plans and discussions going on around at least. And in some cases, they're the features that we need to make this space in the sort of interface layout for, and we just currently don't have the sort of screen real estate to offer the customization and the actual data representations that we need. In other cases, obviously we understand that these are really highly requested features, things like ground items, and we've just not yet had the sort of technical capability to get them implemented to the game. We are definitely trying to prioritize them. We are actively working towards them, but there's a sort of huge underlying amount of work that goes into little bits and pieces that players might not even consider with regards to, you know, being able to filter out which items they do or don't want to see. If you don't want to see bones getting highlighted every time they're dropped, or ashes, being able to filter things out by their sort of value, anything like that. It's a far more complex task than it seems at face value, that's had a sort of huge amount of technical work required behind it. We are working towards them, but yes, they're not quick features for us to get out.
Cool. So you guys heard it here. Menu entry swapper, ground item markers, clue scroll helpers. They're on the cards. We are going to be making them. It's just, you know, as soon as they're ready. I also saw a question in chat about an idle notifier, and I believe we talked about this in feedback. Is this something that is on that list of things that we will get around to at some point?
Yeah, so there's two different things that could be getting referenced there, because we've come to realise ourselves there's really pretty confusing terminology around it. The two different things, one of which is already available within the mobile betas and the Steam client, is the kind of AFK logout timer, where 30 seconds before the game's going to automatically sign you out, it will send you a notification and let you know that it's going to. The other thing, which is a far more sort of fiddly and involved helper, is to tell you when you go idle from doing something. When you stop woodcutting at a redwood, when you stop mining, whatever it might be. Which is another one of these more complex things that we've not yet gotten to, but is definitely on the cards, definitely something we're intending to do when we can.
Great, thanks, Lenny. Okay, so I've seen a lot of this actually in chat, so it's great that this has popped up. Is there an expected release date for the mobile UI changes? Nin, can we start with you for this one?
Yeah, we still have to go through all the feedback and make some adjustments, and we'll probably put out another mock-up before we do end up like releasing it. I'd say maybe within a few months, but that might be pushing it. Almost certainly before the end of the year. We've got a few things going on with mobile. So obviously we've got the Android and the iOS betas, which are currently ongoing. At some point in the next couple of months, those are going to become like, we're going to swap those out. So we'll get rid of the old client, and then the beta client will become the actual client. And that on its own has like a bunch of things. It's got increased draw distance. It's got like higher resolution rendering. It's got agility helper, a bunch of like the new features that we've already developed and have been out in the beta. And then at some point after that, the UI changes will come. But yeah, I'd say probably a few months away, but no exact date.
Well, I think it's good from a community point of view that we're not looking to rush these changes out. They're something that, we want to do. We want to make sure that mobile has a good amount of space for these features, but it's not something that we're looking to push as soon as possible. We want to take our time with it, take into account all of the feedback, and then push these changes when they're kind of ready and when we feel like they're up to a standard that the community want. So that's a huge W, in my opinion. Does anyone else want to add anything to that before we move into some of the more other UI questions?
Yeah, leaving some time in there for community feedback is going to be nice. So that we get it right the first time when it first goes out, instead of we've released it. Oh, a lot of you don't like this, then we have to rework it again. It will save time in the long run.
Yeah, tweet me. Tweet me your angry thoughts about the mobile UI changes that you don't like.
You heard it, guys.
and
tweet away.
Nice thoughts as well.
Yeah, we welcome the positivity too. And I've seen a lot of positivity in chat as well, by the way. So we'll get into some other UI questions. One of the changes that we are planning to replace is single tap with a long press. How does the long press timer theoretically replace the single tap function? And are we actually still going ahead with this, considering the feedback about single tap and how useful it was?
Yeah, so one of the things that we said in the blog was we're going to get rid of the keyboard functionality of the like function button, and we're going to get rid of the single tap functionality of that button. We don't need them. With the idea being that you can now customize your long press time, which is actually huge. Like being able to customize your long press time and then getting haptic feedback when the mini menu opens, which are features of the betas, actually just improves like using the long press so much. The idea was that, okay, if we've made that a lot better, then people probably won't need single tap anymore. But people have obviously raised a lot of things like blackjacking and a bunch of activities that like actually the single tap functionality is really handy for like a bunch of activities. So yeah, we just won't remove it. We'll find some space in that like controls widget. We'll make sure to keep it around.
Great, awesome. So single tap will remain, guys. Thank you for sending us your feedback. Has there been any talk of F key or keybind support for switching tabs on mobile? Player says they have an iPad with the Magic Keyboard as their mobile computer, and it would be awesome if they could rebind some unnecessary keys on the keyboard to act as F keys, like on the PC version. So just wondering about like rebinding keys similar to desktop. Do you guys have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I mean, in the short term, we're not looking to officially support using keyboards and mice on Android and iOS. There has been some work done to make sure that they kind of like function. But there's a lot of other features that we need to get done first before we consider that kind of thing. One of the main difficulties with that is like the way that the chat works, like being able to rebind keys that don't type characters or that do type characters is just kind of difficult. But yeah, I mean, it's something that maybe we could look at in the future, but in the short term, we have other things that we need to look at.
Cool. So more of like a nice to have type thing that we'll look at. Do the mobile UI changes affect battery life at all? This was a question that came up from the survey and I was quite curious about it. Do you think that it will make it more draining to a mobile user?
The UI changes themselves shouldn't. It's possible that there might be some difference in battery life between the current client and the beta client, but that will depend on your device. It will depend on the draw distance because you can now customize that, the frame rate, things like that. We've been keeping an eye on it throughout the betas, and it hasn't been raised as much of an issue, I think. So yeah, the UI changes themselves won't.
Could be wrong in this as well, but with the change to C++, then it'd be better performance. It could be better performance anyway. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, definitely in some places it is a lot faster than the Java client. So yeah, that's a possibility as well. It does render at a higher resolution, which might affect battery life. We were thinking about ways to kind of mitigate that as well. But yeah, we haven't seen any issues with it really throughout the beta, so should be all good.
Nice. I'm left-handed, so this question is dear to my heart. Will the new UI be usable or switchable for left-handed players?
It's not something that we had considered initially, but if you think about it, we could take everything below like the chat and the minimap and just make it so that you can like mirror them. Maybe that would work. It's something that we're considering. And it did come up quite a lot in the feedback as well. So yeah, it's one of the things that we're discussing and looking at.
Nice. Lefties, we're still in for a chance to become the best mobile gamers out there. Nin, you're also left-handed, are you?
Yep.
So, yeah.
I mean, like, you know, they don't make like a left-handed Xbox controller because that's dumb. They don't make like a, you know, we just get used to it.
Yeah, we just have to learn to live with it, but we really shouldn't. We should start an uprising, honestly. Okay, so will you consider porting the new look of the chat button and side panel stones to PC and desktop for resizable mode?
So this isn't something that we've considered before, but if it does prove to be a popular new look, then I definitely wouldn't be opposed to it. We'll definitely need to sort of like reconsider it because, especially in the context of fixed screen, I know this references resizable mode, but in fixed screen, where everything is kind of held together by this stone frame, it might look a little out of place to have this different style of stone on top of it. I think we've got more flexibility to it in resizable, where it's kind of all detached from each other anyway. But yeah, it's kind of just down to how people feel about it. If they feel like it would be a welcome change on desktop, I'm perfectly open to it myself. It's probably not something that we'd rush to get to do because we don't have the same sort of need for it as we do on the mobile client when making space. But yeah, it's definitely something that we could be open to in the future.
How open you guys are, that's awesome. Right, so I noticed the look of the proposed interface looked really sleek and square compared to the classic RuneScape look of the buttons that look like stones. Do you feel that keeping the overall look and feel of the classic RuneScape interface is more important? Why did we seem to deviate from it?
Yeah, could we get the
West usually would be here. Sorry.
I was going to
West
ask if
would
we can get the
work
thing up.
on it. Yeah, the picture, right, of the thing. So hopefully while Sphere sorts that, Wes would usually be here. He couldn't make it to the stream, so we're gonna have to kind of talk on behalf of him, which isn't the best, but hopefully we can give you some kind of answer. So Nin, take it away.
Yeah, could we get the the full screen one with the minimap open and everything as well? Yeah, so in lieu of Mod West being ill today, yeah, there were a couple of reasons for making this kind of aesthetic change. The first one was, so now that we have all of the stones in 2 columns, the stones are rounded. So if you have them all right next to each other, you get these gaps between them that you can see the world through. So we really wanted to kind of square them out. And then the aesthetic that we ended up going for was this kind of steel looking one. And that was I remember discussing this with Mod West. He was to kind of make it more cohesive, fit with the mini map. It's kind of got a frame that's a bit more clean, and then the side panel itself has these kind of edges and a border around it. So we were just kind of experimenting to see could we make this look a bit more kind of cohesive. It is a bit of a departure from the old school look, particularly the controls thing as well. That was another thing where we were let's experiment. This is just a proposal. Let's throw it out, see what people like. So yeah, we're welcoming any feedback on it. Personally, I quite like them. But yeah, we're welcoming feedback.
Yeah, when you explained about the stones and the fact that if you put all the stones together, you would see little holes through it. My OCD got super triggered, so I'm personally happy with the way that it looks. But I can understand why players who are used to the stones, they feel that they're very used to it, why they might be a bit, taken aback by it. So yeah, I guess it's up to personal preference and stuff. Generally speaking, I can say from the survey results that most people did like it. We did see some kind of variance in opinions when it came to the question about art style. But on the whole, most people either like the new art changes or they're kind of neutral about it. But we will be chatting with Wes to see if there's anything that we can do in particular. So if you are going to give us feedback on the art style, just keep it constructive. Let us know your thoughts as kind of constructively as possible, and then we can go away and look at that as a team. But if you do say stuff like, oh, I just hate it, it looks trash, it looks terrible, there's nothing really we can take from that in order to improve it. So definitely give us your thoughts. We're still looking at it, but make sure that all of those thoughts you kind of put it into words that we can then take away and do something different and improve it. Does anyone want to add anything before we move on to the next question?
I think with the new changes and the way it looks a lot sleeker and a bit more uniformed.
Sleek, loving it. All right, so which activities do you guys see the new mobile UI excelling in compared to the previous? Where do you see it performing the same or potentially even worse? Nin, how about you answer this one?
Yeah, so the ones that I saw most people asking about before we even thought about doing a rework was alking and superheating, because you have the magic, your spells are on one side and your inventory's on the other. So that becomes a lot easier with this change. We've seen, like I mentioned earlier, we saw some feedback where people think that PVM, is going to end up your right thumb is going to be way overloaded, and your left thumb's not going to be doing anything if you have to do gear switches or switching prayers and things like that. So we're going to come up with a solution to that, because we don't want anything to be worse. We want everything to be as good, if not better. Most things probably will remain the same though. And like anything where you're just interacting with the world will remain the same.
Awesome. Cool. Can we make it easier to right-click on mobile? Currently, it's a pain to grind anything requiring it.
Yeah, if anyone's played the betas, then yeah, the long press time on the old client is 600 milliseconds, which is more than half a second. And that's like a really long time to wait for the mini menu to open. You can turn that down all the way to 100 milliseconds in the new client, which is too fast. But 200 is a pretty good number to have it on. And that makes anything like just tap, do, tap, do, tap, do, just like way better than it currently is. So yeah, as soon as you get your hands on like the beta, or when we go and swap it out for the real thing, yeah, it'll be better. And we'll keep single tap mode as well.
I do remember from the beta there were so many people saying how smooth it was and how it just felt so different compared to the mobile, so compared to the existing mobile client that we have. So I'm really, really excited to see when you guys all get your hands on it. There's so many things that they're tiny little details, but they make such a difference in terms of your gameplay. And I think that customizable long press timer is going to be one to watch, because it definitely makes all the difference, especially considering, you're clicking all the time.
Yeah,
as a mobile user, oh, sorry.
So I'm always shouting about it. The long press delay and the haptic feedback is just so good. So good.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing about the new client.
Oh, that's awesome. As a mobile user who plays mainly on large Android tablet, the one feature I'd love to see is a way to resize all UI elements at once, perhaps a slide bar in the display settings. To clarify my request, this is from a player, on tablet there's no need for the inventory or chat to take up the same % of space it does on mobile. I would like more uncovered/uncluttered gameplay real estate. Someone else used gameplay real estate, while the menu should stay the same size as they are on mobile. What do you think?
That's a good term. Real estate. We use it all the time. The new client makes it technically possible. Like we can resize we can like scale the UI separately to like the rest of the app. So technically, yeah, that's possible. It's not something that we've like considered before. Like I saw this question today. But yeah, it's definitely possible. If we get enough requests for it, maybe we can do it in the future.
Cool. All right. Have we considered changing the auto logout timer? It's rather short for someone multitasking. An AFK-able skill like sand crabs or bank standing. Perhaps adding a visible timer, warning, or push notification. Does anyone have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I mean, changing the auto logout timer is a bit of a more broad sort of like game question. As do we want to allow people to stay signed in for longer, which wouldn't just affect people AFKing things, but would also affect people actually just going away and leaving their account inactive, which we want them to get signed out before too long. In those cases, we don't want to just leave people left signed in for hours when they're not at home. But yeah, it's kind of one that falls outside of just the scope of these client and mobile changes. I wouldn't personally hold my hopes too high for it. I think there are a number of reasons that it should be kept sort of at least fairly close to where it is at the moment. But yeah, it definitely could be something that the team at least consider. Obviously, this limitation was put in place God knows how many years ago now. I don't think it's ever changed since the release of Old School, at least, and for however many years before that. On the sort of follow-up part of kind of warnings, timers, push notifications, to have another little throwback to the fact we've got these ongoing betas and the Steam client, we do have push notifications available on the mobile betas when you're about to be signed out. We do have sort of desktop post notifications on the Steam client if you're about to be signed out and don't have the window in focus. We are looking at these kinds of notifications. If there's more that people still want, if they do want kind of like an on-screen indicator, then we could maybe consider that. But I'd hope that when people are actually looking at the screen, they're also kind of actively engaging with it and not about to be signed out anyway. So hopefully the kind of push notifications and the out of focus notifications cover the majority of cases that this is really wanted for.
They want farming one, from what I've seen. I've seen a lot of people say we want farming notifications. I don't know if we have those.
That's something that has been looked at quite a long while back now. I seem to remember back when everyone was in the office, pre-pandemic, that there was some investigation going on into that, maybe from Mod Oasis and Mod Maz at the time, I believe. It is not a simple thing to do. It's something that we love the idea of doing and having push notifications when you're offline to tell you that your tree has fully grown. It is not simple.
Okay. Oh, that would be so good though.
But back on the topic of the logout notifier, maybe it would help if we allowed them to customize how long until it was sent.
Potentially, yeah. I do wonder if the players who are asking for us to include it in the client just haven't been playing with the beta and haven't played with the Steam client, so just didn't realize it was there, rather than really needing the customization, though.
True.
Yeah, and on the
guys.
on the auto logout timer, I mean, I've only thought about it for like 10 seconds, but I'd be well in favor of making it longer. There's probably a ton of problems with doing that I'm not considering, but I think we should do it.
Let's chat. All right, you guys know who to at.
Oh no!
Tell us how popular it would be. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Definitely, we should consider everything. And if it's coming up a lot in feedback that people really want us to reconsider it, it's a completely valid thing to take back to the team and discuss. There's no promises that we can ever make on Q&As, but we definitely should give our thoughts. So yeah, if you guys think the logout timer should be increased, definitely share that. I'm sure that many players would find that relieving to hear. Okay, so last question and then we'll wrap up with some UGC. Are there any plans on allowing iOS users to lock their phone and stay logged in?
Yeah, this is something that we've been investigating like a ton over the course of like developing these new Android and iOS clients. It's like, how can we like keep the app still running in the background? And what we've found, as far as like I know, is that iOS is just like really picky about like what you're doing with an app while it's backgrounded, and it will just decide that nah, it's done. You're done using that app. It can't get like a network connection or something anymore. So yeah, from what I understand, iPhones are kind of strict about like the lifetime of your app when it's backgrounded, which makes that kind of difficult for us to do. But like we have put a lot of work into like figuring that out. So maybe we'll have a breakthrough at some point.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering that. Does anybody have anything to add in terms of that question or any other questions maybe that you're seeing in chat that you want to address?
The only question I've just seen come up a moment ago was, speaking of the Steam client and its features, when can we expect a new batch? And I don't want to give a specific time or date or anything, but the near future is my kind of tentative short answer. Like we mentioned in the past, you get because that's Clue Scrolls has been our focus and is coming along really well. Huge shout out to Mod Sova on it. Has been putting on some awesome work. And yeah, it's really coming together nicely. Hopefully not too far out within the next month or two.
Let's chat. Clue Scroll Alpha. That's so big, especially for, I'm assuming that's going to be transferred over through to like mobile and things like that. So that's awesome. Yeah. Ty, do you want to add anything or address anything that you've seen in chat? Take it away.
There's nothing for me, but the Clue Scroll Hub is looking really, really nice, and you should all look forward to seeing that.
Hi. And then, do you want to address anything before I go into UGC?
The only thing I saw was someone said left-handed people are like the Iron Men of real life, which is so true. We love to talk about it and just make sure that everyone knows.
That is perfect. Oh, that makes me feel so much better about it. Right, okay, let's wrap up with some community content. What is in store for this week? I don't think any of us have actually seen it. So first of all, if we can get the first one up, which is just titled Neve. Oh my goodness, that's beautiful. This is by
really
Daniel Lee. Daniel R. Lee. Wow. Gorgeous. Stunning.
Some people are just so damn talented.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I can barely draw a stick person.
That is
No,
stunning.
Does anyone know what
Wow.
creature that is on the right hand side?
I don't. Am I getting knowledge? Anyone in chat know?
Looks like some kind of hydra, maybe?
Someone said dog? Is it a dog? Alright,
Demonic
moving
gorillas
on.
are being shown up.
Oh, demonic. Is that what it is?
That's what the
Demonic
chat seems
gorilla.
to be saying.
Okay, that is sickening. She looks amazing. Oh my gosh. Alright, the next one is 13 Years of RuneScape Drawings by Ariton. Oh yes, I saw this! So I think the first one is where the person started, and this is like their drawing skills now. That's amazing!
I'm not gonna lie, they started out pretty good.
Yeah.
For
2008.
my standards.
I do
Yeah.
remember being a big fan of many pictures like the one on the left back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it looks like something you draw at school where you're kind of just like really bored in class and yeah, you're just
Yeah,
thinking
and
about RuneScape.
That's proof that if you put as much time as you put into RuneScape into drawing, then you can get really good at it.
That's beautiful. Well done. The next one is Inferno AF1s. Oh my gosh, that's
What are
beautiful.
those?
Oh, I'm assuming they
They're
drew
great.
that. They painted that on. Oh my gosh.
I wonder what the shoe would look like if the pattern was continued the whole way around. Then you had
That is sick.
the shoelaces as well.
Sheesh. That is so great. I love it. I don't know if they do commissions, but oh my gosh, that would be so great. And the next one is you have a funny feeling you're being followed. So this could be, I don't know. Oh!
Oh, that's so cute.
Oh my gosh. Imagine having that on your desk. I've seen the Kraken pet in game and it's just one of the most adorable pets ever. They're so cute. I don't even think it's meant to be cute. It's meant to look scary, but it just ends up looking really cute.
No, he's just a little wiggly boy.
That's by F.R. Via. And our last UGC of the week is Who Would Win in a Fight by Orthazor. Oh, who do you think would win?
The is it a smoke devil in the background? Easy.
No, I mean the mage looks ready to go.
Oh yeah, he's already got a spell going.
But you're
My money's on the dark
missing out.
wizard.
The man with the axe, he's going to chop them all down.
Oh yeah, true. No
Rune axe.
competition. Alright, well that's our UGC for the week, but don't leave yet. We still have one more thing to talk to you about before we let you guys go. We have a really cool trailer to show you from RS Kingdoms. It's the Steamforged game stuff, so if Spear can get that up for us. Thank you. Wow. Guys, what you just witnessed was a CGI trailer for a physical board game that is being developed by Steamforged Games. So I just have a few things to say. Steamforged are bringing this bad boy to Kickstarter on the 31st of May, so very, very soon. We actually played it through the digital version and really enjoyed it a couple of weeks back. I know Lenny has a bit to say on that. Beloved OSRS creator 9rain is also going to be doing the digital playthrough with Steamforged soon. You can keep an eye on all of their channels for more info with !RS Kingdoms. The Kickstarter is starting Tuesday, so follow the Kickstarter page if you want to get involved. Super, super fun. And Lenny, I believe you have some info to share on a video, I think?
Yeah, so I had the luck of getting to play it myself the other week, along with a couple of the guys from Steamforged and the lovely Mod Spear over here. And there are some videos that I believe I'm told are now up on YouTube. There's a sort of like rough how to play of the video of the board game with myself and Spear playing through it for the first time. It was a wild ride of a game. It was great fun, so I strongly recommend checking them out.
Fantastic. So yeah, definitely check out the video, guys. It's !RS Kingdoms. If you are into board games, even if you're new to board games, definitely check it out. You'll find all of the information with the command. And with that, I think we're going to wrap up for today's stream. Any final words, guys, before we do the announcements again?
No, thanks for watching. Yeah, if you have any feedback on the UI stuff you didn't get into the survey, just ping me on Twitter.
Nice. Okay, guys, so ! Game update. This week's game update was all about Group Iron Man. We've added unranked Group Iron Man mode so you can team up casually with your pals. We also have our very first group, Boss Bash, which is a competition that you can enter through the game. Your group can take on Old School's toughest foes and be in with a chance of winning a bunch of membership. And then finally, !RS Kingdoms. We just showed you an awesome CGI trailer for a physical board game. We're so excited to share more information about that with you, so make sure to check out all of the information about Steamforged and the Kickstarter, which is starting on the 31st of May. And with that, we will say goodbye to you guys. Goodbye. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.